Welcome everyone to our special Zambia satellite session about the Screen and Support Package, a roadmap. Today we'll be sharing a little bit about the Screen and Support Package, a project that we piloted in Chazanga, and we're looking forward to sharing this tool with you. So this work starts with the premise that adolescents and young people have diverse needs. We know that the period of adolescence is one of lots of changes. There's physical, social, and emotional changes, and lots of new things are happening at the same time as adolescents learn who they are and identify their own needs. When it comes to health and well-being, young people also have new things that they're encountering. And we worked with adolescents in particular on the ABCD project to target mental health, especially amongst young women who had recently become pregnant or become mothers and who were living with HIV. This work really also made us reflect on the other challenges that are happening at the same time and certain challenges that might be making mental health worse. One of the big issues to come out of that work was that violence was common. Violence in relationships as well as with family members. And we know that when someone's experiencing multiple challenges at the same time, these things can feed each other and can make it really difficult to find a pathway to support and find a way to feel that things are going right for you. So this is where the work that we did with Screen and Support really began from. And when we think about why we took this approach, why we tried to create a package of support for peer supporters as well as for the people that are working with peer supporters, we had a few reasons that we took this approach. One is that the problem is well documented. We know that adolescent girls and young women, especially in the sub-Saharan Africa region, but also all over the world, are experiencing high rates of gender-based violence, but those who are living with HIV may be at even greater risk. And we also know that peer supporters and other types of staff within clinics might be able to expand their skill sets to meet multiple needs. There's more that peers can do in their time that they have with clients. But we also know that nobody can work in isolation, and we can't expect too much of one person and one type of care provider. The theme that we have for this summit, the Face of Care, really reminds us that frontline providers have to show up each and every day for their patients and their clients. And so part of our hope with Screen and Support was that we'd find new or revamped ways to provide support to clients or patients, but that we'd also find ways to communicate these skills and support peer supporters and their teams with finding the right way to apply these skills in a way that worked for them and in a way that enabled them to do their job without too much additional strain. So, the Screen and Support package came about after a year of formative work, collaborative conversations, and testing approaches in Chazanga, Zambia. The project's draft peer supporter workbook reflects some of the key themes that we worked on, and these key themes are really aiming to support capacity sharing and to promote new skills that are related to identifying and referring for violence and related challenges. This is specifically focused on young women and adolescent girls who are living with HIV. In this slide, we present the table of contents. So we have 7 modules, and I'm going to walk through each of these 7 modules very briefly in the next few slides. Our first module is an introduction called Why Screen, Why Support. It focuses on the idea that there is no one-size-fits-all approach to providing support for someone. Support, as you know, as frontline health providers, may come in different forms, and different people require different things. We also focus on the importance of asking questions and setting up the lessons and tools that we'll be learning throughout the package, with the idea that if you don't ask, you won't know. So trying to figure out how to ask questions in the right way and also connect individuals to services that are specifically focused on their needs is a real fundamental principle of the Screen and Support package. The second module is called Foundations to Violence Responsive Approaches. It covers a few basic foundational pieces. One of these is to define what counts as violence. When we say survivors of violence, or when we say that somebody has experiences of violence or gender-based violence, what does this mean? So we cover some of the definitions. We also have a section exploring how you might be able to understand if someone is experiencing violence. And we also cover 5 key principles for working with survivors of violence and how to apply them in your work. Many of these lessons were sourced from peer supporters themselves and from frontline providers who have had lots of varied experience working with individuals who've been exposed to or have experienced different forms of violence. Our third module is called Setting the Scene, Clinic Community Collaborations. It builds on PATA's C3 model, which focuses on how to make connections and build relationships among different stakeholders in a community. And to think about this a little bit better, we thought of asking the question, who can support young people with additional needs in my community beyond the facility? So we have some different tools that we cover. These include community dialogues, different types of relationship building, and also clarifying roles of who is doing what. We also include a tool at the back of the workbook, which is a space to develop a community mapping. It's a template, and it can actually be removed from the workbook and put up on the wall of your facility or your office. And it's just a way to start thinking through the details. Who is providing which type of service, where are they based, who's the right person who can act as a contact person, and are there other things that we need to know about this organization or this individual in terms of the services that they're able to provide. Our fourth module is called Setting Up Questions to Screen With. What is most important to ask? So this part of the workbook covers important skills for interacting with clients or patients when it comes to screening. And we cover the idea that some screening is more formal, for example, through a set of questions or a validated scale, but other types of screening questions may be more casual or conversational. So this session is part skills building and part information sharing, and we include some prompts, ideas, and topic areas that might relate to violence or other challenges. And one of the things that we just want to emphasize again is that violence is one of the things that we look for, but there may be other signs or symptoms that someone is having a hard time, and we also are interested in asking about and probing and supporting young people with these areas as well. Our fifth module is called Disclosure versus Reporting versus Referrals, considering differentiated approaches to care. We felt that this was important to include in our workbook because there's actually a lot of differences that we found in the work that we were doing with regard to individuals who wanted to disclose experiences of violence, maybe tell a peer supporter in confidence, and those who wanted to go down the route of formal reporting. So we also, shared a little bit of the background information in this module, but then we include some practice opportunities as well to help peer supporters and others in the training figure out how to best support or further refer individuals who come in with complex cases. So I've included a screenshot here of Lillian, who's a character that we came up with, who's having quite a few challenges in her life and may or may not need further referrals based on experience of violence, substance use, and emotional difficulties that she's experiencing. So we give peer supporters and other participants in the training an opportunity to talk through, think through, and try and understand how they might approach this kind of situation. The sixth module is called Setting Up Referral Pathways, How to Help Young People Who May Need It Most. So we actually have some tools in the workbook as well as a kind of step-by-step guide to think about how you might approach different steps when you want to make referrals. For example, for violence or for other challenges that your clients might be facing. And this is a kind of helpful, practical way to think about identifying those individuals or those organizations, for example, from your earlier community mapping tool, but also identifying the right flow and how you as a peer supporter or frontline health worker might be able to accompany or follow up with the client to ensure that they're accessing the right type of service and being connected to care in a way that works for them, in a time that works for them. Our seventh and final module is called Self-Care Tips, Your Mental Health Matters. And in this section, we've just included a brief set of self-care tips that can support peer supporters and other service providers to find ways to care for their own well-being. We know, again, with the theme of the face of care, that it's not always easy to be the person providing care. And there's important ways to reflect and take time for oneself to be able to replenish your energy and feel connected to yourself as you do this care work. So, what's next? We are in the process as our collaborative team of making changes and adjustments to the workbook. As I mentioned earlier, it was a draft workbook and we had a really wonderful experience testing out the activities and the training with peer supporters in early October. We'll be adapting this workbook into a PATA Linking and Learning online module or course. So the Linking and Learning Hub is a great space for health providers and peer supporters to come together and learn. And so we're hoping that some of the content will be able to be a little bit more in-depth and something that can be done through an online course, hopefully in the first half of 2024. And we will also aim to make this workbook available online, so we've included some information about that. But if you have any ideas about what we might be missing, for example, the content, the approaches, or other activities that we can be including, we'd love for you to get in touch. And so our email addresses are also included in this presentation, and you can feel free to be in touch with us with some suggestions. Thanks so much.